now tuned in to the cold, hard truth. Cayman's #1 hard-hitting live podcast show, where we feature some straightforward conversations on political, social, and celebrity news and all things happening in the Cayman Islands and around the world. This show was created to give the people a voice and a means of being involved and informed without any filters. Sometimes it gets crazy, but we always keep it real. We bring you the tea, piping hot, so grab your favorite beverage and join the conversation via WhatsApp at 324-1612. Email tips at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Now, here's your host, Sandy Hill, broadcasting live from the beautiful Cayman Islands.
How is everyone? Hope you guys are doing well. Who is here with me? Miss Irvlyn is here. Thank you so much, Irvlyn, for waking up with us this morning. Runika is here. Ivan is joining us as well. Good morning to you, my dear. Beautiful photo. Brandon is here for it. How are you, Brandon? Miss Janet, thank you, Miss Janet, so much for waking up. Hopefully you guys have got your cup of tea and you're ready to dive right in. Christian, hello, Christian. How are you? So good to see you. Kizzy, good morning. Where is my little how you doing button? Yes, good morning to all of you.
How you doing?
How you doing? Buenos dias, Elizabeth. Isn't it a wonderful morning? It is a good morning, Siobhan. Everything looks beautiful. Good morning, Marlene. Thank you so much for tuning in. And of course, Olivia. And who else is with me, folks? My eyes feel a little bit dry this morning. I think I might have to get some eye drops and put in. So we will be joined a bit later on by our regional correspondents. Remember, on Wednesdays now, Janika is joining us from Jamaica to kind of tell us all about what is going on. And I can tell you that today is so far a beautiful day. So we will look forward to her joining us. Lots of things going on in the news. Of course, the Americans are knee deep in their political, what do we call this? Their election season. Tomorrow will be, is it tomorrow or today? They've got a debate coming up. That is Thursday. Yes. Yep. So their debate is coming up, presidential debate. That will be the final one. And I know yesterday some of you were messaging about the U.S. polls, like how the polls work and stuff like that. And a lot of the polls got it wrong last time in terms of who was going to win. But there are some polls who historically have gotten it right. And in fact, one of those polls has called the last 9 elections, and they use certain bits and pieces of data to come to the conclusions that they actually come to. So it's very, very interesting, I must say. And we'll see in a couple of weeks how all of that flushes out. I saw some, Caymanians are so incredibly interesting. They get really involved on a personal level in the U.S. election. In fact, I feel like some of them get even more involved in the U.S. election than they do what is happening right here in the Cayman Islands. But I saw some of their comments, and they've been posting stuff about, I think there was some rally or something that Trump went to, and they're like, oh yeah, he's getting reelected, he's getting back in. And then others, of course, do not believe that for 1 minute. So my eyes are just super irritated this morning. So when Danica comes on, I'll probably run and go grab some eye drops. So we're expecting her around 8:15 this morning. So let me just see. I'm going to just do some catching up here. Good morning, Andy. How you doing? So we did see in our local news that there was a, I'm just trying to pull this up. There was a program that was recently introduced that I think has a lot of people interested, like what is this program all about? So we'll try to talk about that a little bit later on. Okay. We're just checking our information for the day. So yesterday we had 238 COVID tests, all were negative. Out of that batch, okay. So we're waiting on some statistical information from the RCIPS and some crime stats. So yesterday morning, quite interestingly enough, there's a man who was robbed around 10:30 in the morning. Super, super crazy and quite unbelievable. So he was robbed of some money and some jewelry. And of course, that is never a good situation. I would, sometimes you don't even know what to say about these things. When we posted the story, by the way, I did see some comments later on in the day that we had said 10 p.m. instead of 10 a.m., but the title said earlier in the morning, and it was breaking news. So that was an error, I can assure you, that has now been corrected. So thank you so much for those of you who were concerned about the time. Just having a quick look here. Yeah, so there is quite a bit that has been going on. Somehow I've managed to actually delete emails from my server. All right. So what's been trending lately in terms of Cayman news? Well, definitely everything about the military. What are we calling it now? Let me tell you what the deputy governor, I think, made a comment or something about this. But the defense bill, there's going to be some amendments to it. And of course, everyone is saying that the UK is trying to push a military force on us. And, you know, what does that mean for the Cayman Islands? And I'm always a bit surprised, quite frankly, that Caymanians think that they are in control of their own future and really where this country goes when it comes to their relationship with the UK. I've said it for the longest time since I've returned to the Cayman Islands. I've learned just a little bit. I'm no constitutional expert, but I've looked at the situation, and I think it is unrealistic for the Cayman Islands to believe that we will forever be an overseas territory. Since the 1960s, every single country has been pushed into independence by whoever they were linked to. The vast majority were linked to the UK, but there have been other countries that have had, you know, overseas territories and stuff as well. And there has been an ongoing move to separate them from their mother countries. You know, they say that it's in the best interest of everyone. And in fact, the mother country doesn't want the liability that comes with having children under her, whether it is the liability that comes with stuff like, you know, or financial business or otherwise. And so, yes, they are preparing us for independence, whether we want to or not, and whether we're ready or not. So this attitude that we have, that we will resist every single thing that they put in place that points towards, you know, independence, is a bit silly in our part. And I think we need to wake up and smell the roses. My opinion on this is you're going to go independent eventually, whether you're ready or not. So the best thing for you to do is to start to make the relevant preparations to make sure that you're in the best possible position. Hi, Larry. Good morning. So a lot of people seem to be under the misguided, in my opinion, that independence equals, you know, disastrous results. And we always want to point to, oh, well, look at Jamaica when they went independent. Look at all these other Caribbean nations who have struggled since going independent. And I think the honest truth of the matter is independence itself doesn't equal a disastrous outcome. It is really a question of preparation for that. How prepared are you to really go independent and to handle your own affairs? I find that a lot of countries, when you look at a lot of the historical context in which they went independent, yeah, there are people out there, hooray, let's go independent. But the truth of the matter is they were not ready. They didn't have the proper infrastructures. Their finances were already a shamble, really, before they even went independent. So going that next step, and they continue to go the next step. Because remember, a lot of them, including Barbados, I think it was the other day, made an announcement that they're going to completely be separating themselves from the crown. So they've been independent for years, and they're going to now remove the Queen as their figurehead. And so that's kind of like the last and final step in the process. So I think the UK will eventually go in that direction as well. So yes, it's coming. It is coming, folks. Prepare yourselves. Why are we fighting a defense bill? Why are we even fighting the idea that one day we may need to have defense forces, and we may need to have, a military, so to speak, that is trained. Now, I get it that we're a pretty small country, so we're probably not thinking that anyone wants to invade us necessarily. And I don't know what, form independence will take for us. Because we are such an incredibly strong country, we may still need some support when it comes to defense. I mean, God knows, Jamaica could wake up one day and say, we're going to take you back. And it would be more than easy to do so because of our sheer numbers. You know, so that's a possibility. But I think we just need to be ready. And I'm not quite understanding the argument. People are saying, oh, the UK is going to, they're going to force us into military service for themselves. I'm pretty sure they have enough of their own people to choose from if they need to go into military service. So good morning to Leslie. So good to see you. I hope you're feeling well today. So what do you guys think about this defense bill? You've been hearing some arguments on it. We have individuals. I did see Katina Anglin, who was extremely outspoken on the most recent, what did we end up calling it now? It was the domestic partnership bill, and then we turned it into the, I think we changed the name. Yeah, we ended up with from civil partnership to domestic partnership. So she was very vocal on that issue, and I do see that she has returned to talk some more, I guess, about this issue. I'm not sure. But Denny has been very vocal on this as well. So Denny Warren Jr. has expressed some concerns about this. And perhaps one day we'll invite Denny on the program to share some of his concerns, because I'm not really sure that I entirely understand what the problem is. But let me read one of his posts for you so that you can get an idea of what he's thinking. I think we are just kicking the pebble down the street in terms of what is inevitable and what is, potentially coming our way. So Denny shared on the 19th that the Cayman Islands Legislative Assembly is debating a defense bill which will establish a military for the Cayman Islands. We do not need a military, he says, especially in these times when the Cayman Islands is raking up a debt of $25 million a month. Please do not support this bill. So if it's just on financial grounds alone, okay. And if that's the case, we probably wouldn't get much done at all. But, someone says here that this regiment wouldn't be for us to be independent. That's what some people think. Although I think the way Cayman is going, that will end up being our best route to consider if we want to have a chance of maintaining a shred of our Caymanian identity. This will be a means of Britain maintaining additional control over these islands. So that's what some people think. How will a local regiment mean that the UK will have additional control? So I don't really get it. I don't understand. I need to obviously be educated from the perspective of what other people are having, where the issue lies. So the issue is money. The issue is they're going to use our men for their military service. I'm not really sure. Alric actually weighed in on this conversation on Denny's page and said, the defense bill was marketed as a way to assist us and neighbors with disaster recovery and relief. However, when you read the bill, it says military service ... including other things. The facts are clear. The marketing was misleading. The bill also states that the appointment of officers and operation of the regiment prior to the passage of the bill into the law would be deemed lawful. What would this provision be? Why would this provision be there if they were so confident about the lawfulness of current actions? More people must get acquainted with draft legislation, comment, and hold elected officials accountable. So we don't want a military service, And we don't want one because, help me out here. Another person says it's a very slippery slope. Slippery slope into what? Okay. Yeah, so maybe we can find out a bit more about the issue. Why people do not feel like having a regiment or defense, no matter how small, to start in that process and build up, because it will take many, many years, why that could be something that's important. So I think, there's a comment here about to maintain our Kimanian identity, we will have to look at going independent. I don't think the UK has an issue with that, folks. I think eventually the UK is going to say, get out. I don't know why we think that we're such a golden prize for the UK. More and more, they're coming to the conclusion that this relationship isn't going to work, and that the logical conclusion will be that we will go independent. So, we'll get what we want in short order, and whether or not it's really what we want will then be, I think, a matter of discussion at that particular time. So Larry, Siobhan, Elizabeth, Marlene, Olivia, what do you guys think about this defense bill? Do you feel like you know enough about it? Do you understand it? One person says a military bill for what? It would not be your kids to go serve. So is that the concern, that your children might end up serving where? In the Cayman Islands, in a war in the UK? I don't quite understand. So one person says, this is one of the concerns the opposition has. The government is proposing something that gives the governor full control over the regiment, and he can have them go anywhere to participate in a confrontation. Okay. So with our small population, we're going to be the first choice to come and take your kids to go serve in a war. All right. Section 3 of the defense bill says, Danny reads, a member of the regiment may be required to perform military services, including training and non-combative services, both in and outside of the islands and at the discretion of the governor. So non-combative means it wouldn't be a war. So what's the issue? Military training. I'm confused. It's like Prince Harry and what's his brother's name? The other son who's the next in line for the throne after his father. They did military service, and that's what you do. I don't see what the issue is. I'll speak to Danny, see if he wants to come on and explain it to us. Good morning, Marshall. How are you? Bruce, I think that was one of the questions or one of the points that was made by Denny, but then there's like all these other points. So I'm really trying to narrow down what this is all about. You're just opposed to it because of everything. Everything's wrong with it. So Denny goes on to say the premier is trying to convince people that we legally need a military, but in practice, it will really be used for helping out in the aftermath of hurricanes. The truth is they'll be able to send their people off to war anywhere in the world. So that is the position. And so then someone responds to that, and why would we need to send our people off to war? And Faith says, because we are British subjects. And then this other person, Priscilla, says, but we've always had the option of joining the British Army if so desired. And we've had Caymanians already do so. So why the need now to create this military division if we already have the means to? And then another person says, sounds like someone has a plan for independence, which there's always been a plan for independence. Back in the, let me just have a look here. What is that special committee called? I think it's called a special committee. I'm going to have to look this one up, but there is a UN committee. I should know this because I actually went to New York and spoke. It's the United Nations Special Committee on Decolonization. I actually went to New York a number of years ago and spoke to this committee. And basically what that committee, what their remit is to see the entire world be decolonized. And there's an entire history in this, folks, that if you don't know about it, you should. And it's called a special committee. I think there's also another name for it, like 21 or whatever. So they're talking about visiting mission to Montserrat and holding meetings in Antigua and Barbuda. So again, I have mentioned that this has been the remit for quite some time. It was formerly known as a special committee on the situation with regard to the implementation of the Declaration and the granting of independence to colonial countries and people. What a mouthful. So they are devoted, the special committee is a subsidiary organ of the General Assembly devoted to decolonization and tasked with overseeing implementation of the Declaration. So this is a long-standing position that all countries should be self-governing. And there are only a few left. I will get you the exact number, but there's only a few left. So four of the special committee, 4 members of the special committee were going to Montserrat. This was in December. And of course, Montserrat is administered by the UK. And it has been on the United Nations list of non-self-governing territories since 1946. As of today, 17 non-self-governing territories remain under the special committee's purview. And of course, the Cayman Islands is one of them. American Samoa, Anguilla, Bermuda, British Virgin Islands, the Cayman Islands, the Falkland Islands, Malvinas, French Polynesia, Gibraltar, Guam, Montserrat, New Caledonia, Pitcairn, St. Helena, Tokelau, Turks and Caicos, and the United States Virgin Island and Western Sahara. And most of them actually are part of the UK. I would have to go through and see exactly what numbers, but the remit of this decolonization committee is to actually see these countries become self-governing. So it is only a matter of time, folks. I don't understand the issue, why people are like, oh my gosh, we might go independent. You will be going independent, folks. Prepare yourselves. Get leaders in place who can take this country into a meaningful direction. Thank you, Marshall, Prince William. Yeah. Into meaningful direction as it relates to independence. So listen to what this says. Since the birth of the United Nations, more than 80 former colonies comprising some 750 million people have gained independence. At present, 17 non-self-governing territories across the globe remain on the list of non-self-governing territories, home to nearly 2 million people. So thus the process of decolonization is not complete. Did everybody just hear that? It's not complete until the entire world is self-governing. And so that will happen, folks. That is the remit of the UN, whether you like it or not. So people have been lying to us if they are telling us that this will be our position forever. Quite rightfully so in many respects. When you become an adult, it is a good idea that you grow your wings and you get out of your parents' homes. You handle your own business. Otherwise, you'll always find that there'll be conflicts arising about what you want to do and the rules that your parents have set down for you. And we definitely see more and more that that's happening with the UK. It goes on to say completing this mandate requires a continuing dialogue among the administrating powers. The special committee on the situation, I think they changed their name at some point, but anyway, Special Committee on Decolonization, or the C24. And it used to be C21, so I don't know what the 24 stands for, but that has changed. And the peoples of the non-self-governing territories, in accordance with the relevant United Nations resolution on decolonization. So check it out, folks. You will certainly see, all of the things that are here and useful. To learn a little bit more about this process and about the direction in which we are going. I say it's only a matter of time. I have been involved in the process, like I said, myself, Billy Adams, and in fact, even Denny Warren Jr. We went to, I'm trying to remember what year that was, but we went to the United Nations in New York some years back and had this discussion with them. We were representing the Cayman Islands. The Chamber of Commerce was also in attendance at that event. Our position might be that we want to stay under the UK. That's what a lot of people vocalize. But the truth of the matter is, more and more our actions speak to the fact that that is unlikely to happen. That will be an untenable position. In other words, it's just not going to work. Good morning, Nathania. Catherine. Bruce says, I suspect that some people don't see why there's a need for military force if the force is on providing disaster relief and support. They want the government to admit that this is simply a step towards independence. Well, maybe it's not actually a matter for the government to admit, but perhaps it is a matter for the UK, and the government may have absolutely no say in the matter. So someone has messaged to say, why would the UK have given us the right to a UK passport if we are to be independent? Well, passports expire. And, those types of arrangements expire. In fact, did you guys see this? That now people's passports are being stamped that they no longer have access to the UK, to the EU. Let me just, let me see if I can pull this up. I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but I think I saved it on my phone. Gosh, I have so many things on my phone sometimes. But someone actually shared this post in one of the groups online that I am in, because they said that they had recently renewed their passport, and this was a new stamp that was being put in their passport. Let me see if I can find it. So they said Cayman passport, and when they said that, oh, here we go. So let me see if I can just pull this up. I wasn't sure if it was like our Cayman passport or the UK passport. So I must admit that I'm a little bit unclear despite their wording, because some people use those things interchangeably. So I'm going to show you exactly what that stamp says. And of course, that's the situation in the EU right now. I mean, the EU has obviously, the European Union and the UK have separated. So that separation changes things for us. We're not going to have access to free travel anymore. We're not going to need visas to travel around the rest of Europe. Vivian, no word on quarantine in the Sister Islands. I think I briefly discussed this yesterday. And I did send a query to government about it, and we've received no responses yet. But I think I mentioned yesterday why I believe that they're probably not going to do it, because they're still keeping the sister islands in a bubble. So they do not want to expose the sister islands, probably for a number of reasons, to the possibilities of having incoming travelers. And listen, incoming travelers are bringing this virus into the country. There's no arguments there, right? So we do know that that's happening. So I am of the firm belief that they do not wish to have any positive cases there, because basically it's much harder to contain the situation in the sister islands, because you're going through like two processes to get there. You come in at the airport, and then you're going to do what? Stay here 1 or 2 days until you can get access to a flight going out to Cayman Brac. And then, there's just additional exposure there. So I do not see it happening, unfortunately. That is my opinion. And I think that that's the logical reasons why they are not going to allow it. So here's this, this page is reserved for official observations. So it says the holder is not permitted to benefit from EU provisions relating to employment or establishment. And the comment on this post did say that this was Cayman Islands passport. Now, like I said, I cannot be certain that when they use that term, that they actually meant to say or Cayman passport, or if it was a UK Cayman passport that they were renewing. But this is what it is, folks. Things change. The person who's asking, well, why would they give us a right to their passport if they're going to push us into independence? Well, passports expire. A passport is not a document. And the document that gave us that right, the white paper that gave us access to their passport, was something that was introduced in the, I want to say, late 90s. But honestly, that situation can change at any time. The UK can do up a new white paper, or they can come up with new provisions. So that shouldn't give you any comfort that that change is never coming. You know what I mean? Or that we're never going to go independent just because they've made a decision in the past. That just doesn't make any sense. So this is where our politicians need to be having these conversations. So this is what the post said in relation to this. It says October 14th, and so it begins. New stamp and Cayman Islands passport, sad face. Because again, your passport gave you access to traveling around Europe. I kind of think that this must be the UK passport. I have both, so I need to look at my passports and see. But for me, it makes sense that it would have been the British passport. But yeah, they said Cayman passport, so let's assume that they know the difference. So it is what it is. Someone else wanted to know if that was going to change anything with our relationship in terms of the US. So it's a good question. I mean, right now we obviously get travel visas to be able to go to the US. But this is the changing face of the world that we live in, folks. So this is exactly what it looks like. So Bruce has some comments here. And Bruce says, I think the issue with the UN committee is that Cayman will need to eventually decide on full integration or independence. The UK is saying that they don't want to force a decision on the Cayman Islands. Yes, I don't think integration is going to be a real possibility, because I don't know of any country that under the decolonization process, any former country, and that's over, what do they say, over 80 countries, whatever. I'm not aware of any that have integrated. They've all gained their independence. So we could go through and look at the list of countries, administrating states. Remember I said earlier, the UK is obviously not the only one. So we've got Australia, Belgium, Denmark, France, Italy, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Portugal, South Africa, Spain, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Now, I am personally not aware of any of those countries that have integrated and became like a mini UK, is basically what integration would mean. So Australia has had 5 countries, including Trust Territory of Papua New Guinea, Trust Territory of Nauru, Papua New Guinea, and the Cocos Keeling Islands. And of those, 3 of those have gone independent. So one is called, this is so interesting, are they 2 separate territories? One is called Independence as Papua New Guinea, and then the other one says Independence of Papua New Guinea. So maybe those territories like came together. And then Independence as Nauru. And then for Cocos Islands, change in status. What does change in status mean? That was 1984. So I'll have to have a look at that and see. Belgium only had 3, and they all went independence. So we had Belgian Congo, and they went independent as Congo, Leopoldville, later Zaire, and now the Democratic Republic of Congo. That was 1960. They also had the Trust Territory of Rwanda, Urundi, and that has split into 2 countries. One part of it is independence as Burundi, and the other is independence as Rwanda, both in 1962. Denmark only had Greenland, and it says change in status. So this change in status, I need to figure out what that means, but that was the only one for Denmark in 1954. France had a number of territories, quite a few actually. So France had French Equatorial Africa, French establishments in India, French establishments in Oceania, French Guyana, French Somaliland, French West Africa, Guadeloupe and dependencies, Indochina, interesting, Madagascar and dependencies, Martinique, Morocco, New Hebrides, Reunion, Saint Pierre and Miquelon. I don't speak French, folks. Trust Territory of Cameroons under French administration, Tunisia, Trust Territory of Togoland under French administration. And the vast majority of those, again, there's some that say change in status. I'll try to figure out what that means. But the first one, which was French Equatorial Africa, went independent as Chad in 1960. And then it looks like another part of that went independent as Gabon in 1960. Middle Congo went independent as Congo, now the Republic of Congo. And the Ubaji Shari, which is part of this French Equatorial Africa, went independent as the Central African Republic in 1960. So the French establishments in India, Oceania, and French Guyana, it says change of status in 1947 and 1948. French Somaliland went independent as Djibouti. So most of these countries have gone independent. The Netherlands is on here. They had a few territories. New Zealand had a few territories. Portugal has some here as well. Mozambique was under Portugal? Really? Wow. That I did not even know. So Portugal had a presence in Angola, was once Portuguese. Cape Verde, now Cabo Verde. Mozambique. uh, Guinea-Bissau, Sao Tome and Principe. South Africa only had two. The independence as Nambia, right? Nambia, and termination of the mandate of South Africa by the General Assembly in 1966. Spain had a couple, and then the UK had a lot. So the UK has the most on this list, folks. Let's just run through the list for the UK quickly. I know our regional correspondent is waiting. So we had Aden, which became independent as South Yemen. Later, Yemen uniting with Yemen Arab Republic in 1967. We have Antigua, which is the Leeward Islands. They went independent as Antigua and Barbuda in 1981. We had the Bahamas that went independent as the Bahamas. Barbados, which obviously went independent as Barbados. Busituland went independent as Lesotho. Never even heard of them, to be honest. We had Bechuanaland, which went independent as Botswana. British Guyana went independent as Guyana, but they've actually changed the spelling of the name in 1966. British Honduras went independent as Belize. I never knew that. 1981. The things you learn when you read, folks. It's amazing, right? Knowledge is power. So Belize was formerly British Honduras. Then there was British Somaliland, which went independent as Somalia. And they joined the Trust Territory of Somaliland under the Italian administration. And then you had Brunei, which went independent as Brunei Darussalam. Then you had Cyprus, went independent as Cyprus. Dominica, the Windward Islands, went independent as Dominica, my apologies. Fiji went independent as Fiji. Gambia, we had Gilbert and the Ellice Islands. They split and went independent as Tuvalu and Ghana. No, my apologies. As Kiribati and Tuvalu. The Gold Coast is now Ghana. Grenada, Hong Kong, they're doing a change in status. Okay, so I guess a change in status, now that I see Hong Kong on the list, makes a little bit of sense. So they haven't completed the process yet. They're still transitioning. So we know that Hong Kong, some years back, was it in 2000 or whatever? It was handed back to the Chinese. So the Chinese will take them over, but that's interesting because Hong Kong will continue to be, they will not be an independent territory. They'll just be, I guess, they're not going to become China, but the Chinese are trying to, take back Hong Kong as part of one of their territories. So Jamaica's on the list, and Jamaica, of course, went independent as Jamaica. And then Kenya. So let's go ahead and stop there. Speaking of Jamaica, let us welcome Danica to the conversation. Danica, you might need to pull that camera down a little bit. There we go. Good morning, my dear. How are you?
Good morning, Sandra. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. So we are here talking about some changes. We're getting a defense bill. And so we are discussing what some of the implications are for that. Obviously, independence is definitely on the radar at some point, regardless of what people want to believe. And so I was actually going through the list because this is maybe one of those fun facts about me that people don't know, that I went to the United Nations quite a number of years ago, seems like a lifetime ago, and represented the Cayman Islands with some other individuals for what was called the Special Committee of 21. They've since had a name change and now they call it C24. But this Special Committee of 21, their remit is to decolonize the entire world. And so since the 1960s, 80 countries have been decolonized, and there are only 17 remaining territories. And that's an anomaly as far as the United Nations is concerned. And the purpose of this committee is to ensure decolonization of everyone. And the Cayman Islands is actually on that list. Now, some interesting comments here. But what I think is interesting is Cayman always wants to have its cake and eat it too. Now, I know, Danica, you probably won't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole because you don't necessarily know a whole lot about the Cayman Islands, but we can all appreciate the concept of having your cake and eat it too. So there is a jurisdiction. And I want to say, give me 1 minute to look at the list here. It's one of these B countries. I always get the B countries in the Caribbean.
So, I guess what I should ask you is, you believe that decolonization, and let me get an accurate definition, the action or process of a state withdrawing from a former colony, leaving it independent, achieves what exactly?
Well,
Jamaica's not independent. We have the Queen as the head of our state in the form of the Governor General. Canada is not independent.
You will be getting rid of that probably in the near future, because right now I think it's Barbados. We did a story on this recently. They are in the process of. They've expressed that they're going to start the process now of removing the Queen as head of state. And
does that change anything? Because
it changes. They're independent now, but they have no. It's more of a
ceremony. Yeah, it's symbolic independence. We're not really independent.
Yeah, but then they don't want her in any of their documentation. Her photo doesn't have to be anywhere in their official buildings. She disappears. So it is symbolic, but it also is, I think the symbolism has some real implications. And I know that Jamaica has expressed as well, the Jamaican leadership, that it's coming.
Every 10 years, they think that they're going to take the Queen away as the head of the state. We can't even control ourselves as is.
But does it matter if she's only symbolic? I mean, you just said she's only a symbolic
technically
thing.
She's symbolic, but the truth is she's more than symbolic, because if you have a case in Jamaica and you need to get to appeal court, you're going to the Privy Council. The Governor General still plays a significant role in the Parliament, whether it's symbolic or not. We've never come upon circumstances where he's had to be used, but really, we don't really.
Hasn't Jamaica moved away from using the Privy Council, and don't they now use the Caribbean Court of Justice or whatever it's called?
The CCJ, it's not our final court of appeal.
It isn't yet. Okay. I thought that had been changed. So there's a whole list of countries here that have been decolonized. I was just kind of going through the list. It's interesting how some of the names have been kept and then some have changed. The Panama Canal Zone is on this list as well. They still have in their status area, it says change of status since 1947. So they were one of the U.S. territories. The U.S. didn't have as many. To Bruce's point about integration, Bruce, I want to just answer this question, I think, based on this list. The only territories that I really see here that looks like they may have been integrated have actually been U.S. territories of Alaska and Hawaii. And so for those, it says became part of the United States. For Alaska and Hawaii, obviously became part of the United States as well in 1959. So both Alaska and Hawaii U.S. territories became part of the United States in 1959. So I guess in theory, Bruce, integration is possible. Do I think that that's a likelihood for the Cayman Islands? No, I do not. I don't think it's a likelihood from the perspective of the Caymanian people, nor from the UK would they want integration. They don't want to have to continue to run our affairs and to control us when we don't want to be controlled, quite frankly. So Karen says it would be the UK passport. I just got my Cayman passport renewed and no such stamp. So we were talking about the fact that this stamp is now appearing, but Caymanians have access to more than one passport. So the person who shared this said that this was the Cayman passport, but Karen seems to think that this is actually the UK passport that we have access to and not the Cayman passport, which kind of makes sense to me. That's what I was kind of thinking. So we'll just finish up these comments, and then we're going to get some updates here from Danica. So Bruce says the issues about citizenship. Caymanians were given British citizenship, and there are questions about the standing of the UK. to now take away citizenship from a subsection of citizens. This needs to be a decision made by the Caymanian people. I don't know. I mean, if someone offers you citizenship, then surely they can withdraw the offer. So I don't know. From a contractual perspective, Bruce, that doesn't make sense to me. Because if I extend an offer to you, right, even if it's between countries, and then at some point I say, okay, that offer is good for 20 years and now I'm done with that offer, I have the option of withdrawing that offer. Contracts are unilateral in a way, but normally the person who is making the offer is the one who has the ability to change the terms of the contract or to cancel the contract entirely. So I don't think that the Cayman people, and this is where I kind of say Caymanians have, I think, some misinformation in how this will all play out. And our elected officials need to be doing a better job of educating us. We can't have our cake and eat it too. And there is, I'll have to ask Denny what country this is. I'm trying to remember which. I want to say it was Barbados, but maybe not. But they're one of the B countries that in the Caribbean. The UK has basically said that they have a bit of a unique situation, a unique arrangement with the UK. But the UK has said that that will never be permitted again. So the arrangement they had was unique and different, and they, flushed out that with the UK, and it gives them pretty much independence, but they still have some lineage, some linkage to the UK that is different from any other jurisdiction and any other means that people have gone independent. It's kind of like a hybrid system. Like I said, I'll have to ask Danny which country that is. But the UK has basically said that they will not allow any other country to have that. So the Cayman Islands does not even need to think about that as an option. I'll find out which country and I'll get some details. Bruce thinks that most Caymanians would vote for integration over independence. Really? Huh. So you think that Caymanians would become full British citizens over independence?
Of course, I think so. I think if you ask Jamaicans if they would like to be full British citizen versus Jamaicans, they'd say the same thing.
Really?
They'd rather to be Americans.
No.
There's no benefits to having a Jamaican.
They want to be Jamaicans. Bermuda. Thank you, Marshall. I think you are right. And that would explain why Bermuda is not even on this list. Because it has Bahamas,
it's the British
Barbados.
overseas territory. It's like Cayman.
No, it's not like Cayman. They actually have a very different arrangement than we do. And the UK has said the arrangement that they have, the constitutional arrangement with the UK, nobody else will ever get that. I'll get some more details on it because it's very unique and different. So Shelly wants to know any news on Jasmine. Shelly, it's sad to say, but this Jasmine story, first of all, we're the only ones who reported on it, which I'm kind of sad to hear about. And it's gone quiet, but I told you guys from day one, there were things with this particular death. This is a young lady who was the director of sales at the Ritz-Carlton. She got ran over by a friend or an acquaintance in a parking lot and was killed, only 31 years old. Shelly, I've said from day one that there were things about this, including the company that they work for. I think the person who ran her over, I do not have this confirmed, because we have yet to know who that person is. So I do believe that that person worked for the Ritz as well. And there are peculiar things about this situation that put up immediate flags for me, even before we published the story. So why is this such a hush-hush case? I do not know. I'm pretty sure, Shelly, that that person has never been to jail. They've only been arrested on suspicion of causing death by careless driving, which is not an offense that you put someone in jail for immediately. So no, they're not in jail. Carol says Jamaica came out of the Commonwealth and does not have the Queen as head of state anymore. No, that's incorrect, Carol. As a matter of fact, let me just share this story with you guys. Because I know that that's wrong because we just did the story on, I think it's Barbados, who is looking to remove her as head of state. Right. So September the 16th, we did a story that said Barbados says time to fully leave our colonial past behind, will remove Queen as head of state and become a republic. So the difference is when they make the change, there is a name change as well. So they become a republic. So Barbados and their Prime Minister of Barbados made some comments to this effect. And I've just put the link there so that you can read it. And as September 2020, the other nations that have her as Queen of State include Antigua and Barbuda, Australia, the Bahamas, Barbados, Belize, Canada, Grenada, Jamaica, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Solomon Islands, Tuvalu, and obviously the United Kingdom. So no, Jamaica is still very much on the list, Carol. Bruce said the offer did not have an expiration date and it was accepted without condition. Well, that doesn't mean that you can't withdraw it. I mean, this is how things work, folks. Bermuda, Marshall, you're so right. I'm going to dig up and give you guys some information later on that. Kizzy says, when I saw that on Loop, I was actually concerned. It's not taking it nor allowing my kids to take it. Taking what? Kizzy, I need some clarification on what you mean. Shelly wants to know in relation to Jasmine and why was her husband scrubbed from her social media. Shelly, my apologies. I understand that they actually took down her social media accounts, at least the Facebook one. Now, why that has happened, I do not know. What I can say to you is it is a little bit unusual. My sources actually told me that she was married, but I think he was scrubbed from her social media page even before she died, because the person said to me, oh, I know she was married, but I hardly see any photos of her and the husband. Like there were tons of photos and they're all gone. So maybe they were going through a separation. I mean, I don't know. Pure speculation here, folks, but I know people do have a lot of questions. So Shelly, we will continue to find out what we can. But I think it's one of those situations that is being covered up. I'll use that term very, very loosely. So Bruce says that yes, Approval Council is still the final court of appeal for Jamaica, and the legal fraternity in Jamaica does not want that to change and does not want to join the CCJ. Okay. Thank you for that.
And I'll also share that there was a Bill Johnson poll that was conducted in August prior to Emancipation Day. In July, between July 9th to July 12th. And it used a sample size of 1,200 voting Jamaicans. Johnson reported that when his team asked people to say whether the Queen should be Jamaica's head of state or not, 55% of respondents said no. 30% said yes, while 15% said they don't know / they don't care. The results reiterate a widely popular view, often echoed by politicians, but has not seen anything in the legislature. In fact, the closest the issue has come to discussion in Parliament was in 2016, when the newly elected Andrew Holness-led government included a proposal to make Jamaica a republic in its 2016 to 2017 legislative agenda. At the time, Holness had told the BBC that while Jamaicans had embraced the Queen in the past, the time had come for a change. However, Jamaica, he has said, would want to maintain its links with Britain and the Commonwealth because it is important for strategic reasons that a small country like Jamaica has a voice. Holness' comments followed those of former Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller, who in her January 2012 inauguration address had said Jamaica needed to complete the circle of independence. However, most Jamaicans do not see the significance of the benefits of independence.
Interesting.
So there's some food for thought.
Thank you for that.
The fact that the Jamaican passport requires visas everywhere is a reason why people would want to stay within Britain in the Cayman Islands, because you don't want a worthless passport. That's why people run to the US.
I tell you what, now that we see that stamp in the UK passport, which basically doesn't allow you access to the European Union, I think some people are probably thinking that it is a worthless passport, or the many benefits of being linked to the UK have now disappeared since the UK is coming out of the EU. You can travel to the UK and then what? So it's interesting how these things do change. And this goes back to the point that I was making with Bruce, which is that, these types of arrangements change all the time. So Shelley, thank you so much, Shelley, for your comments. Shelley is saying that, again, thousands of people worldwide would not stop looking, investigating, and bringing to light whatever's going on. Well, we hope so, Shelley, because the Cayman Islands, unfortunately, has a way of covering up certain things and things going unnoticed forever. And like I said, I'm shocked that no other media in the Cayman Islands even reported on her death. To me, that's very disturbing. The Compass did not see fit to report on it. Cayman News Service didn't report on it. And that's pretty much it. And ourselves. Loop is there, but Loop didn't report on it. Cayman Times didn't report on it. So it is one of those things that I find that a lot of times if something is only on our radar, although we do, have a large following, it concerns me that the establishment are not really that concerned about it, because I'm always still shocked and surprised at people who say, well, if I don't see it on the Compass, I don't believe it. That kind of thinking. So it is unfortunate. And I think we will definitely continue to see what we can find out, whether it's through official sources, unofficial sources, whatever. We're going to keep on top of it. And yes, Jasmine seems to have been a very well-liked individual. And thank you. Oh, she says the New York Times is looking into this. Wonderful. And they're working with a reporter in the US. Yes, well, they're not going to get any answers, I can tell you that, because the file itself has been locked by the RCIPS. I will reach out to the RCIPS, Shelley, I will give you my word, and ask them if there are any other further updates on this matter that they're able to share with us. They'll probably say no, and that the investigation is ongoing, but I will actually do that now. Danica, I'm going to give you the floor so that you can tell us what has been going on regionally and what's the latest source for the week.
So COVID-19 continues to dominate the trend in terms of regional affairs. COVID-19 death toll is continuing to rise in several CARICOM countries. In the wake of an increasing number of deaths related to the coronavirus, several Caribbean community countries are appealing to citizens to maintain the established protocols and measures aimed at preventing its spread. In the Bahamas, a 74-year-old male is the latest victim of the virus, where the majority of cases have been recorded, has become the country's latest victim, and I should say Providence, bringing the death toll to 123. There are now 5,773 positive cases, with 3,339 recovered. In Guyana, 3 deaths were recorded in the past 24 hours, pushing its total to 114. The Ministry of Health there said that those who succumbed to the virus were all women ranging from 64 to 74 years old. It is said that 31 new cases were reported yesterday and that there are 12 patients in the COVID-19 intensive care unit, 74 patients in institutional isolation, and 819 in home isolation. The country has recorded a total of 3,675 positive cases to date, with 2,749 having recovered. The situation remains the same in Trinidad and Tobago. It has also seen another COVID-19 related death, bringing the death toll to 98 with 35 new positive cases. As of yesterday, the country has 1,477 total active cases, reporting that it had 3,758 total recoveries. So in Trinidad, like Jamaica again recording a significant amount of COVID-19 cases. And let me just give you the update for Jamaica. Jamaica recorded 53 new COVID-19 cases on Monday. This brings the country's tally to 8,374. There were 14 cases in St. James, while Kingston and St. Andrew had 9. On the positive side, there were 51 recoveries, bringing the tally to 4,002. Sadly, there was one additional death. The deceased is an 85-year-old man from St. Anne. This means that Jamaica has now recorded 174 fatalities linked to the virus since it was first detected in the country in March. That's the COVID-19 update for the region. And for those of you that probably got into the last segment of what I was saying, that means that COVID-19 death toll continues to rise, particularly in several Caribbean countries. And I provided an update for the Bahamas, Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, and Jamaica. In addition to what's going on with COVID-19, I thought it would be good to bring to awareness that the G20 is suspending poor nations' debt payments for 6 more months. The group of 20 nations representing the world's biggest economies agreed Wednesday to extend the suspension of debt payments by an additional 6 months to support the most vulnerable countries in their fight against the coronavirus pandemic. The suspension of what the G20 says could provide relief of $14 billion in debt payments has been due to expire at the end of the year. Wednesday's decision gives developing nations until the end of June 2021 to focus spending on healthcare and emergency stimulus programs rather than debt repayment. The G20 announcement was initially on Twitter during a meeting of the group's finance ministers and central bank governors, and later confirmed at a news conference. And that being said, what is the financial situation in many countries across the region? Many countries are finding it difficult, particularly in areas with relation to the local economy. So if you would know, for example, a recent Don Anderson poll in Jamaica revealed that consumer confidence has plummeted by at least 20%. And there's still fears among business owners that things might not turn around in a fast enough time, given the expected date of a vaccine to be ready. Those are all considerations that are affecting the economy because, as you know, the economy is significantly driven by confidence. So confidence is the biggest thing, particularly in the Jamaican economy, that pushes people towards spending, which helps to bolster the economy. What we're also noticing is that the BOJ, or the Bank of Jamaica, continues to intervene in the market, having flash sales. The latest flash sale was less than a week ago. And what that flash sale has meant is that the BOJ is trying to maintain its accommodative monetary stance aimed at encouraging and supporting a speedy recovery once the crisis has passed. It is estimated Its estimates are that an additional 157 billion in both recurrent and capital expenditure will be necessary to support efforts to revive the economy and to increase support for the most vulnerable Jamaicans through the COVID allocation of resources for employees, care packages, as well as by supporting the health and well ministry. In the real time, the COVID-19 pandemic has had a serious impact on economic activity. A significant contraction in real GDP in this fiscal year in the range of 7 to 10% is projected, and there is some risk that the fall in GDP for the current fiscal year could be larger than currently anticipated. It is said that partial economic recovery is expected during the fiscal year 2021-2022 in the range of about 3 to 6%. However, the head of the BOJ, Richard Biles, pointed out that the Jamaican economy is not expected to return to its pre-COVID-19 levels before 2022-2023. Those are significant, even with the exception of one country in CARICOM, which is Guyana. Most countries are seeing or projecting a shrink in GDP, which could have a very real impact, particularly on this region, which is already struggling. Countries like Jamaica, Trinidad were just beginning to see the signs of economic prosperity when COVID-19 hit. And the issues that we're facing all across the region include poor access to internet. Not only do we have poor access to internet, but we're also seeing internet connectivity being poor among the most vulnerable. And as you would know, right across the region, Barbados, Trinidad, Guyana, all of these areas or all of these countries are moving towards a digitalized school system. That brings with it new challenges, and governments are not necessarily speaking about, heads of states are not considering subsidizing internet. And that's a big deal because a lot of children are being left out of the space because of the lack of internet. And it's a huge problem, particularly now for the most vulnerable, with everybody. And almost, I've seen this campaign on social media where we're trying to get tablets. Everybody's being asked to donate a tablet. Those are very serious considerations, particularly for the most vulnerable in these countries. I'm not sure what the situation is like in Cayman, but for example, here in Jamaica, less than half of the kids are not engaged in any form of educational activity because of poor internet connectivity, no access, no devices. Maybe some of you would have heard some voice notes going around with parents just being, well, I wouldn't say insensitive. They're just also a little bit not aware of how the online schooling system works. So there's this great need to almost sensitize and educate parents as to what's really taking place in the educational space, because you have parents that are just leaving their children willy-nilly. They're not supervising them. And that's one aspect that came from physical school that's no longer available. Moving on to entertainment. As you would have seen earlier this week, we posted the story on Mall Road about Dalton Harris coming out as a pansexual. This has been a huge deal for Jamaica, particularly because of a perceived homophobic mentality. So in 2018, the 2018 UK X Factor winner, Dalton Harris, took to social media to share with his fans that he has chosen to self-identify as a pansexual. The Jamaican music sensation's sexuality has long been the subject of curiosity, with many speculating that the artist was gay. However, he quieted the rumor mill after he posted a pansexual pride flag on Twitter. In a series of follow-up posts, both on Twitter and later on Instagram.
Just one quick second. Danica, you've got to ignore my ignorance on this. What is a pansexual?
What is a pansexual? So
yes, because I have no idea. I mean, I saw somebody commented something about it. Someone who's like not identifying
so it's not
as anything.
limited in sexual choice with regard to biological sex, gender, or gender identity. I'm not exactly sure myself. I don't identify as a pansexual, but I just thought it was very similar to bisexuality, because there's only two genders. So I'm guessing, he just doesn't want a label. I'm guessing that's what it really means on its core.
Well, let us look it up.
Well, there's only two genders, so if you choose not to be limited.
So it says, not limited in sexual choice with regard to biological sex, gender, or gender identity. And there's a whole article here that says, what's the difference between bisexual and pansexual, and are they the same thing? It says that they're actually two different things. They're two different ways to describe sexual orientation. Although they don't mean the exact same thing, some people relate to both terms and describe themselves as both bisexual and pansexual. Okay, I'm confused. Let me see.
So I guess they would be saying, Sandra, if you're a transgender, then I guess you could be you would also be considered maybe pansexual, because say, for example, I transitioned to a man, but I still liked other men. So I guess that's where pansexuality would come in.
Girl, I'm confused. I must admit, this term I don't quite understand.
Me neither.
So it's a non-binary term. So in other words, he doesn't want to. Okay, so this is what it says here on this Healthline website. The prefix pan means all. Similarly, pansexuality means that you're attracted to people of all genders. This includes people who don't identify with any gender, so they're agender. And many pansexual people describe themselves as being attracted to people based on personality, not gender. Note that pansexual doesn't mean that you're attracted to all people. For example, heterosexual men aren't attracted to all women and vice versa. It simply means that they find themselves attracted to people of all sorts of gender categories. Okay. All right.
How did that make you feel?
Yeah. A little less confused, but not really.
Same.
Yes. So he just wants to be able to date whoever he wants, I guess, and not identify.
Well, the gossip is, the tea is, I hope you guys brought your mugs, is I should get my CMR mug.
Yeah.
The tea is, guys, Dalton Harris's lover allegedly broke up with him, and he went into a meltdown on Twitter. So if you go back and you look at his Twitter, just the day before, he said that he was considering, or he made a post to suggest that he had been in contemplation of attempting suicide. And also, there's more tea. He says at the end of this post, where he comes out and says he's a pansexual, he kind of says, he suggests that he's gay, because he says, lastly, to the boys with fragile egos, I am a top to you and your girlfriend or non-binary partner. I was like, whoa. And top means something in the LGBTQP, I'm not sure the other letters, world. And I was like, whoa, this is shocking. But it is very interesting that that's the tea as it relates to Dalton Harris. Will Dalton Harris coming out mean that other men in the industry will come out? There's some that have been under suspicion. So, I mean, it may be a step, but also remember that Dalton Harris lives in the UK and he's not a dancehall artist. So people don't really care that much about Dalton Harris, to be honest, because I don't know any songs that he sings. I've never heard them in a club. And so, yes, it's a big deal because he's from Jamaica. It's not really a big deal. No dancehall artist has come out and says, I'm a pansexual. I do see it happening soon because, as I spoke to you last week, we also had another entertainment story, which was quite juicy. We continue to follow up on Macadamon, and the dancehall artist has again turned heads as she dropped some photos of herself online, which had everyone talking. Macadamon showcased photos of herself topless with just jewels covering her boobs. Mind you, those of you from the 80s would remember Macadamon as Lady Mackerel. She was big on the dancehall scene back in the day. In young people world, she's close to 100, but in real life, she's probably in her 50s going on 60s. This has sparked grave controversy in Jamaica as to whether it's appropriate for women to be joining OnlyFans, particularly as artists, and then going on to showcasing all their lady bits. Now, D'Angel has done this, which is the former wife of dancehall veteran Beanie Man. She's made a killing. She was seen in the Porsche store after her OnlyFans account was basically leaked on WhatsApp. The pictures were circulated. But many people now believe that, are they artists or are they selling sex? Are they prostitution? Is it prostitution?
Well, listen, can I just stick a pin in there, Danica? Artists have always, and especially Caribbean artists, have always, in my opinion, unless they were, even country music artists, we're not going to exclude them, but unless they were in the Christian music genre, so whether it's dancehall, country music, calypso, reggae, what else do we have in the Caribbean? Soca, what other genres are there? Whatever. A large portion of those music genres incorporate sex because sex sells no matter what it is. So country music, I can't think of any country music songs right now, but help me out, country music fans. I know you guys will be familiar with some of this stuff, but like I think of all the soca and calypso songs about Sandra, give me a Julie Mango. They always want to be using my name up in it. I don't know why, but honestly, there are so many like wind up your hips and it's like, that's why I kind of chuckle when I hear even some of the older people like, oh, the music of today, the dancehall music is so ridiculous and this, that. I'm thinking, it's different, but your calypso music and your soca music is all about winding up on somebody, man, and pushing up your hips on them, and they just use different terms. So maybe the level of vulgarity in the sense that they weren't going to call it like the street name, right? So they were going to talk about you, Julie Mango. They were going to use these descriptive terms. Yeah. So, I mean, but it's all about sexuality. That's what these songs are about. And so they're very much sexualized. So are people still going on about that? I mean, is that still a thing?
Well, it's a thing because now we have dancehall artists, males, that are thinking of joining OnlyFans. So it's whatever. It's just that we'd like artists to be clear that many of these artists, by the way, aren't popping. So, D'Angel is, for what it's worth, is not a major artist. Neither is Macadamon. So I
think if you're outside of like I'd not even heard of Macadamon, to be honest, until this story came up. I'm not really a dance hall follower, dance hall fan. So I think if you don't really engage in that genre, you probably have no clue what's going on with these people.
Oh, yes, indeed. But it's kind of funny because she's so old school. And that's why I put it up, because I know a lot of Caymanians back in the day may have heard about her. So Lady
Mhm.
Maxwell, she's been around since the 80s. So
Mhm.
she's been in the industry. And then lastly, we'll go on to some international entertainment. And Beyonce is set to release a new Ivy Park collection October 30. So, guys, start getting those coins together. Beyonce has announced the release of a second Ivy Park collection coming October 30th. The Black Parade singer shared an image of a field with the words, "This is my park," on her social media account. The photo was captioned Drip 2, October 30th. While few
Mhm.
details are available about the upcoming launch, it is guaranteed to be sold out within minutes, similar to a previous collection that she launched. Prices are speculated to range from between $25 to $10, much like her maroon and orange collection Adidas Ivy Park. The buzz around the previous drop was enormous as sent out orange trucks of various pieces of celeb pals, included Winnie Harlow, Madonna, Kelly Rowland, Ellen DeGeneres, Michael B. Jordan, and Megan Thee Stallion. So there you go.
And when
That's
is
the
this concert?
roundup.
What's the date on this concert?
It's not a concert. It is a collection.
A collection. Oh, okay.
Yes,
My
clothing.
apologies. All right,
Clothing.
so let's look at some reader comments here. So Kizzy is suggesting that we be careful in the investigation of this young lady's death. Thank you, Kizzy, for your concern. Hopefully the New York Times will have a bit better luck getting things pushed forward. We shall see. Carmen says, heard in the US that even suicides are being counted or ruled COVID deaths. Can any of us ever know the truth? What I would say, Carmen, is I don't know about that. There's a lot of rumors in circulation. The things that we do know are the following. Deaths are going to be underreported, no matter how you slice it. Just like last month, we discovered that there are people who died in January that they had not yet identified as COVID deaths because the US was woefully behind the whole COVID situation. So people were dying and they knew that they were dying, but they didn't realize that, oh my gosh, the pandemic is here. And that's why these people are dying. So they've had to reclassify some deaths as COVID deaths because of that. In addition to that, what I would say is that there are more people infected with the coronavirus than we will ever know, because there are people who are asymptomatic, who walk around, who are infected, who have never been tested, and they will never be tested unless they get ill, and then there's a reason for them to get tested. And around the world, there are, shortfalls in testing. Testing has taken months. There's labs in the US, in Jamaica, that are backlogged at least a month. So results are taking a while to come in, even of those who are getting tested. And I know we've covered this on the program before, but basically whatever COVID numbers you hear these countries reporting, you need to multiply that by 5 to 10 times that number, because that would be a more realistic figure of what's actually going on. But the official reported numbers are the ones that they can actually confirm. So I don't believe that suicides are being counted as COVID deaths. I mean, are that many people in the US killing themselves? If they are, they must be depressed over the options for political candidates in the upcoming presidential election. I'm just saying. Top of the morning to you, Louis. He says that he's apologizing for his absence lately, but he's been harvesting in his garden. Good for you. Jonathan says, what a confused bunch. Too many right. I think he was talking about the pansexual comment. Louis also shares that there's lots of fire from the garden. Good growing season. Ooh, sounds like you need to send us some photos. Good morning, Selena. Kizzy's asking about your artist and was asking, didn't she turn Christian? Maca Diamond.
I don't know. Isn't that every week, Kizzy? Every week they turn to the church and come back.
Okay. Let us have a brief. You were talking about coronavirus updates in the region. Obviously, the region is still struggling, and there's a story that's trending right now. I'm going to post the link here for everyone's benefit about the fact that Cayman as well as Jamaica has received some guaranteed funding from the Caribbean Public Health Agency, CARFA, to help pay for COVID-19 vaccine once it becomes available. Now, I saw someone asking the question earlier, I think it might have been Kizzy, about the vaccine. I think people saw the headlines for this and they didn't actually read the article. So they're thinking, oh, there's a vaccine right now that people need to be trying. That's not what this story is about. What this story is essentially about is the fact that, you know, once a vaccine becomes available, there are measures in place throughout the Caribbean to help small nation countries such as Jamaica, such as the Cayman Islands, that pay for the vaccine. So we're always complaining. We're in fiscal problems. Everybody's going to have that issue. Danica, the governments are going to go into deficit now, even if they were not before. So the World Health Organization is basically helping its member states to benefit from a portfolio of vaccine once the manufacturers roll it out and it becomes available. So the Trinidad-based Caribbean Public Health Agency announced on Friday that it was going to be able to assist several member countries with more than $2 million because they got a down payment of US $2 million. And so through now PAHO, which is the Pan American, whatever, they will be guaranteeing that the Cayman Islands is going to get, the Pan American Health Organization has basically said that through CARFA, Cayman will be receiving some $81,000 from this money. That's far, because it's just a down payment. It's going to cost money. This is what people don't understand. If a vaccine becomes available, it is going to cost money to roll it out and to vaccinate your people. Now, I know everybody's like, oh no, this is part of a conspiracy. This is a Bill Gates conspiracy. They want to vaccinate Caribbean people first and blah, blah, blah. But people are going to complain no matter what. So if a vaccine becomes available, we can't afford it, we don't get it, then all of a sudden they're trying to kill off Caribbean people. That will be the next rhetoric because they're not making the vaccine available to us. So listen, these people are saying, these regional and government NGOs, agencies are saying global health is important if a vaccine becomes available. And if it works, because we don't know any of those things yet, one of the most challenging things will be to actually get everyone vaccinated, as many people vaccinated as possible. And so one of the greatest barriers to getting people vaccinated is the financial barrier, the cost of affording it, right? So obviously we're not getting a whole lot. We're getting $81,000, which I guess is better than nothing. And they're saying that, listen, Jamaica will get X amount, the Cayman Islands will get X amount. So there are 150 countries who are participating in this initiative, which was launched in June, to basically ensure that once a vaccine, or if I should say a vaccine becomes available, they will be able to get it with some assistance, some monetary assistance, because it could cost millions of dollars to vaccinate even small nation countries. I mean, you have to roll out an entire educational campaign. You have to convince people that the vaccine is safe and get them to, want to get vaccinated. And then public health officials will be working extremely hard to get all of that done. So listen, 33 territories in the Caribbean. COVID-19 deaths worldwide have now surpassed 1 million. And of that, over 4,000 reported in the 33 territories in the region, in the Caribbean. And of course, there is a growing need for vaccine, hopefully to prevent illness and death. And we've had some high profile people, Danica, in Jamaica, I think you reported this yesterday, that have died of COVID-19.
Indeed. There's been a JLP counselor in the East Portland constituency by the name of Irvin Brown, who passed away after 3 weeks of being on the intensive care unit at the University of the West Indies. I guess here it would be interesting to mention that Jamaica has been trying to procure the drug remdesivir despite warnings or despite studies that suggest that the drug may not actually be useful in treating the COVID-19 illness. However, what we've been finding out is that remdesivir costs close to $200 US per dose, which is an extraordinary amount for the average Jamaican. But following Donald Trump's recovery in the United States, there's been a lot of controversy surrounding remdesivir. I'm not by any way suggesting, I'm not a medical doctor, I'm not suggesting that this is what Donald Trump used to get well, but it's been one of those things that's been thrown out there as a potential not cure, but treatment for COVID-19. In addition, earlier this week, you would have also seen that I posted that the police commissioner, Major General Anthony Anderson, was at the university hospital donating blood plasma. He recovered from the COVID-19 virus, and we've also been experimenting with blood plasma treatments because blood plasma is said to contain the antibodies that the person would have created in their body to fight off the infection/virus. So yes, indeed, there has been a lot of new developments as it relates to the treatment side of COVID-19 here in Jamaica.
The other big thing that I saw kind of trending in the news in Jamaica is your Toots, the artist
Toots
that died.
Hibbert. Mm-hmm.
Yes. He passed away as a result of COVID a number of weeks ago. And then there was some confusion or some issue with him not being at the funeral. He actually wasn't buried because they didn't have some certificate. What was that all about?
So in Jamaica, before you can be entered into the ground, you must have a burial order. A burial order is issued in collaboration with 2 state entities, including the police. Without a burial order, technically they can't bury you. He was supposed to be entered into the cemetery in Spanish Town, Dovecot. However, prior to the funeral, there had been all sorts of confusion because some of his family members believed that he should have been given a state funeral and he should have been interred at the National Heroes Park Cemetery. So that's what eventually ended up happening. He was buried at the Heroes Park Cemetery. I'm hoping I'm saying that correct. I'm not sure that's the exact name, but it has to do with where the heroes and other state officials are buried. And that's what the family wanted. Essentially, this is what happens, guys, when you don't leave behind a will, a last testament as to how you want things to work. Families have different ideas about what it is that you would have been comfortable with. So that being said, Toots is now in the ground, and for those of you that don't know,
there are people who are saying that he shouldn't necessarily have gotten a hero's burial, or there needs to be some understanding of who is even eligible for a hero's burial, because obviously the government wasn't thinking of giving him a hero's burial until this incident happened with him not being able to go in the ground. So it seems like it was an afterthought. So I did read some comments that they were like, he obviously is a national hero. So who gets buried in this national heroes burial cemetery or whatever they're calling it? And should this process not be understood a little bit more and the criteria be set? So it seems like it was a very knee-jerk reaction. And a lot of persons are like,
I agree. I'm not sure what is the criteria for people being buried in the National Heroes Park Cemetery. I know that some state officials are buried there, but outside of that, I'm not 100% sure as to what qualifies you. Based on what I've heard of Toots Hibbert and what I know of him, he's popularized the term reggae. He's been in the industry for many, many years, close to like 40 years. So he's more than deserving, in my opinion. It's just that there should be, some guideline as to how this process works. For example, the minister with responsibility for entertainment stated that given the current need for a pseudo burial place for the late Toots Hibbert, the Hyatt family has consented to allow the reggae legend to be entered into the final burial spot in the section for cultural icons in the National Heroes Park. So I guess you have different sections based on who you are. So he received the final burial spot. And that goes to show that maybe we need to consider different ways of dealing with the dead, because spaces are pretty much full in most of the cemeteries here. Like, personally, I'm not sure that I'd want to be buried, because a lot of the cemeteries are so packed that I just don't know that in the next 100 years that they won't be digging me up and putting somebody beside me. You know what I mean? So.
Okay. All right. So anything else trending in Jamrock that we need to be aware of, or in anywhere else in the Caribbean?
Today, there's nothing that's trending. As a matter of fact, we just received the latest COVID-19 update for Jamaica, 71 new cases, 14 more recoveries, no deaths for today. Nothing necessarily new coming up. I do note that you will probably see a spike in violent crimes in Jamaica in the next couple of weeks. So far, the death toll in Jamaica from violent crime has already exceeded 1,000 people. 1,000 people have been murdered since the start of the year. So I would anticipate, particularly now, given the situation that's happening in St. Catherine, particularly in Spanish Town, where you do have a gang that's essentially been divided because both of their quote unquote leaders are behind bars or facing the courts right now. So you do have a vacuum, particularly in the gang space of the Klansman gang. And so people are anticipating that there will be further flare-ups on that. On the violent crimes note, something that I don't really like to report on, there were 2 headless bodies found in a section of Whitehall Avenue that's in St. Andrew. Over the weekend, they were finally identified as 2 men that were from a community further down the road called Rome. And what happened was, this was particularly shocking, not because the bodies were headless, but because of where it occurred. It occurred in a very, in a community that's not used to that. And so we had a discussion here about beheadings and decapitation. And this was something that was popularized by this gang in Spanish Town in the early 2000s. And again, for those of you just hearing about this, this is the Klansman gang. Several members of that criminal organization are said to have been expert in this practice, which was a signature feature of the Klansman method of intimidation at the heights of its success. So, given that the leader is on trial now, and the gang is basically seeing a vacuum of power, there is anticipated to be a flare-up in violence in the Spanish Town area.
Interesting.
There you go.
Very interesting. Wow. Lots of that. And there was some military, something else I found interesting this week is there was some military personnel in the UK, in Jamaica, that were arrested with some criminal connections.
Right. So basically, you had the security forces firing at each other. You had the police and the military engaged in a shootout. The shootout was said, "Good morning, Sandy, listening while watching the rain falling." It's raining there. Hi, Tracy.
Not where I am. Tracy, where are you, by the way? I don't know that Tracy's necessarily in Cayman. She says, it's trending in Jamaica, war, dying, and COVID going on, while some people this virus is a joke because they don't listen always to the opposite of the rules. God bless this island. So I think Tracy is actually in Jamaica.
Well, it's not raining in
But Jamaica's a big place, so she could be Tracy. Tell us where you are.
Tell us
Yeah,
where you
she's in
are.
Jamaica. So where in Jamrock are you?
Where?
Wherever she's at, she's getting some rain. So listen, Cayman is like that. Like you go up the street, you'll see exactly where the rain starts, and you're like, you drive through the start of the rain, and then it stops. So a rain cloud can be such a
No,
funny
I'm
thing.
aware. I'm aware totally for sure. But I just wanted to know where in Jamaica she is that she's experiencing rain, which would mean that I could go take up my clothes off the line. It wasn't really about if it's gonna rain. But since you put me on the spot, yes. So, as you were talking, oh, okay, makes sense. So, essentially, with the police and soldiers, it's not so much that there's been a breakdown. There's just this one incident where, you know, these soldiers, they seem to be working with a drug syndicate. They were transporting 1,500 pounds of marijuana, aka ganja, to a place in the country, in Gutters, St. Elizabeth. They were apparently, police were acting on intelligence. So whoever they were working with, somehow this information got leaked to the police. They were traveling in a soldier branded vehicle, so a JDF branded vehicle. They were stopped or signaled to stop. They were told they didn't stop. Instead, they engaged the police in a shootout. That shootout subsequently didn't result in any injury for anyone, but it did put a gloomy cloud over the well-praised Jamaica Defense Force, because usually we see police officers in Jamaica as being corrupt, and their corruption, while I don't support it, can be understood based on the types of salaries that they receive, which is about $1,000 per month. So yeah, you have reason to be
So do
corrupt.
people in the Defense Force make a lot more money than that?
Significantly, and they also have better perks, and also the military is generally seen as a place where you have upward mobility. So sometimes with a company, you can go in as the janitor and end up as a CEO. So if you do see progress or ability to learn, this makes the military a more prestigious, particularly in the eyes of the public, institution than the JCF, which is the police force, because we've long heard about corrupt cops in Jamaica. It wouldn't be anything new. That's bad to say, because the JCF is working on cleaning up its image. Outside of that, the military again came under fire again this week. And I'll give you an example, or I'll give you the story as to what happened in the military earlier this week. So it was basically a JDF soldier, and he and his wife were at home. He discovered some pictures inside her phone, and these pictures led to a fight between the two of them. He pulled out his licensed firearm, fired shots at her. She was not harmed in the incident, but it resulted in them going to the police station. And while at this police station, I guess he was arrested. So that again has put a stain on the military once more. Is it a big deal? Not really. We do tend to see violent crimes, particularly of a domestic nature, occurring among people in the security forces. Last year, there was a correctional officer that gunned down his wife. It's not necessarily a new trend, but I mean, it's definitely worthy of discussion. But I do think that the emphasis that we place on these things in society rather than the preventative measures is what leads to some of these things, because we do have a culture we do have a culture of not being able to communicate effectively. So as a country, we're not big communicators, and as a result, this is what happens.
We have a culture of violence. Let's just call it what it is. We all have a culture of violence, and that includes domestic violence, which ironically enough, October is Domestic Violence Month. And I know we shared this the other day, Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And the theme here in the Cayman Islands from the crisis center is don't stay silent, stop the violence, and hashtag rise above abuse. So yes, it's not unusual. Domestic violence in all shapes and forms is it unfortunately an unusual occurrence. It's part of our daily lives in the region and around the world for a number of different reasons. Maybe one day we'll have to have a specific discussion on that. So Kizzy says, free up the weed, hashtag free the weed Cayman. Tracy says it's free, just buy a stick and as much as you can manage. That made her laugh. It's probably free in Jamaica, not so much Cayman. It's free if you can get a doctor to write a note for it, or you can get cannabis oil, I should say, and cannabis, whatever, but not quite the same thing. And Everton confirms that it is raining in Clarendon. So we got a few folks joining us from Jamrock. Thank you so much, Everton. And he is watching via our YouTube link up. So don't forget, folks, you can watch. Some people don't always have Facebook. You can check us out on YouTube. We do have a YouTube channel, Cayman Mall Road. Please like it. We only have like I think a couple thousand followers on YouTube. So we're slowly building our YouTube audience. We have tons of people on Instagram. We've got, I think, 15.4 thousand followers on Instagram. And of course, Facebook in terms of followers has close to about 30,000 now. So thank you guys so much for the love and support. One of the reasons why we have Danica on here and we brought her on board as a regional correspondent is because despite what we think, Cayman is not an island unto its own. We all are interconnected. Cayman has a lot of connections with Jamaica. A lot of Caymanian families are originally Jamaican families. They're intertwined, they're intermarried, and the whole works. And, you know, we need to know what's happening in the world around us, not just Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados, wherever. So I think regional news is very, very important to keep abreast of, just like it's important to keep abreast of world news. So that's why we keep an eye on what's happening in the US, COVID, politics, just life in general, folks. I think it makes good sense to recognize that we're all in the same boat together. So the Venezuelan, the ship, the tanker that we mentioned yesterday, that situation is still being monitored because it received some media coverage. And again, I'm so hats off to Cayman Mall Road. Sometimes we have to pat ourselves on the back. Listen, I have one of these. Let me show you guys this back scratcher thing that I have. I have one of these. You know, sometimes it's hard to scratch a particular area and you're like, So I've got a little back scratcher. My daughter loves to play with this to scratch the dog, but this is mine. So this one's hands off. But, you know, I got to take this and give ourselves a pat on the back. There we go. A little pat on the back. So CMR was the first in the Cayman Islands to break this story about this tanker off the coast of Venezuela and Trinidad that looks like it's actually going to sink and it would cause a environmental disaster for all of the Caribbean Sea. And they're saying that essentially it would create a dead sea. So Danica's got to run. Thank you so much, Danica. We will see you next week, Wednesday, same time, same place.
Bye, guys.
All right. Thank you so much. But yes, we were the first to report on that. And I think, again, you know, if something is going to happen in the Caribbean Sea that's going to kill the entire Caribbean Ocean potentially, that is newsworthy, folks. And that's something that we should all be concerned about. And now that it has been making the news, it looks like the authorities in Trinidad and in Venezuela are starting to pay attention and they're starting to make official statements and to react to the situation. So yes, we gotta keep up, folks. You know, it is what it is. A big shout out to two individuals this morning who had been sitting through a month-long trial, pretty much about 4 weeks. That is Mr. Let me just get their names here. They were acquitted yesterday here in the Cayman Islands. In case you missed this story, HSA employees were acquitted after a 4-week trial. They were security guards. Now, I don't know if you guys remember this case or not, but back in February of 2018, which is not long after CMR got started, we broke the story that the entire security department at the Health Services Authority had been put on leave because there's some allegations of fraud and some impropriety going on in terms of overtime. And so they had charged thus far Nick Romano Smith, age 58, and Dominique Fernando Dakers, age 52, on several counts relating to obtaining property by deception and then false accounting and breach of trust. So Dakers has been, both of them have been vindicated, and they were found not guilty yesterday by a jury of their peers. And I must tell you, I did not sit down every single day and listen to, all of the trial, because 4 weeks is a long time to sit in on a trial. But the little bit that I did sit in on, this decision does not surprise me at all. There was a lot of, and the defense is making the point that, especially in the case of Mr. Smith, who is, let me just show you who he is. He's the gentleman here on the right with showing his muscle, right? He's been there for a long-standing employee of the HSA. And to be honest, the case against him never made any sense, because basically they were saying that he was signing off as a supervisor on overtime for people like Dakers and another guy named Bruce Barnes, I think, who they have said is, he hasn't yet been charged, but because he's left the jurisdiction, they have a warrant out for his arrest. So we'll see how that goes. But regardless, these people putting in for overtime pay, and Smith was, it appears, not well equipped as a supervisor to actually properly monitor and, input the overtime system. Like, he's like, okay, if the guy said he worked, then he worked, even if he didn't put it in on the exact day that he worked that shift or whatever. He felt like if guys are working it, then they should get paid. And I think he was signing off on it. There was an issue back in 2014 that had come to the attention of the management at the HSA, where an individual had received overtime pay for a period of time when they were not even on island. So that raised some red flags. On the stand, HSA management said that they did not believe that there was any fraud involved at that time, that it was just a mistake. It was an error. And so, the person had worked it at some point in time, and Mr. Smith was just trying to ensure that they'd gotten paid for it. So he just inputted random dates or whatever to ensure that they got paid. So obviously, when you're doing timekeeping and payroll, you've got to be really, really careful. The most shocking thing about this is that the HSA had, and they continue to have, for the security officers. Well, now they've got a security team in there, they have actually outsourced it, I should say. But yes, they actually have no electronic timekeeping system in place, which is shocking. Let me say that again. No electronic timekeeping system in place. Ask me how that is possible. So no clocking in and out. Everything is written in this humongous book. They brought the book to court, and they had people from the fraud, the anti-corruption unit, saying, how they had looked at the numbers and they had done this, that, and the next thing. Well, the jury felt that there was no intent there, and the Crown had not proven their case. So both men walked away scot-free yesterday, and, it is what it is. So the jury has spoken, folks, and they are free men today. Some people are saying now the government should give them their jobs back. I'm not so sure that I would want to go back in that environment. But I'm sure government is not going to have to pay them back pay for the last 2 years that they've been on suspension. And I guess they'll decide from there where to go and what to do. Tracy, thank you so much. Tracy says you keep my mind in tune when lockdown came on before I returned to Jamaica. It's a good show you're doing, and I still keep in tune. Thank you so much. So you were here during lockdown and you've since returned to Jam. Got it. Tracy says that she learned a lot from the show today. I appreciate that. And Kizzy is doing a birthday shout out to Melvin Tavares Bess, who's a manager at Savannah Wendy's. So Melvin, happy birthday to you, my dear. Hope that you have a wonderful birthday today. And as a matter of fact, now that you said that, Kizzy, give me 1 second. Let me do some birthday shout outs of my own. So Colin says, hey there, Kaymanian and Sophia Bulgarian. Love the show. Keep up the good work. Hey, awesome. Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, we got people who tune in from all over the world. I love it. So let me just see if I can quickly pull up my birthday greetings. Let me see. Birthday. So, happy birthday to Sasha Espute. So Sasha Anglin Espute, today is her birthday. Erlita Ebanks is celebrating a birthday today as well. Roderick Brown has a birthday. Sherry Wood, the beautiful Sherry Wood, is celebrating a birthday. And Mikal Godet is also celebrating a birthday today, along with Rodell Scott Joseph. So let's get our birthday song going. Here we go. Happy birthday to you. All right, so happy birthday to everyone who is celebrating a birthday today. Thank you guys so much. All right, folks, that's all she wrote. Larry says, good show as always. Thank you, Larry. I really do appreciate it. So tomorrow we're going to talk about this global citizen initiative that the Cayman Islands has launched. There are some questions about that. And, hold on. Breaking news coming in. Okay. So it seems like we may have some drugs that are out in the ocean. I'm trying to confirm exactly where this is. So there's some photos coming through to me now with some bales of packages of drugs out there. So I don't know what kind of drugs yet, but folks, as you guys know, we're definitely going to keep an eye on this for you. I'm sure I'll start to get some additional photos, but we bring it to you as it's happening, folks, real and direct. So stay tuned. We are working on a number of stories for you all the time. We're always asking questions and investigating things. Again, I want to really just let Shelly know that we'll be asking the questions. We may not always get the answers, but we definitely ask the questions. And hopefully we can find out a little bit more about Jasmine's situation. So stay tuned for that, good folks. Today is Hump Day Wednesday, so I wish you all a beautiful and super productive day. I've been working on a lot of court-related stuff, which I will bring you guys up to speed on when I can. Sentencing hearing coming up for November the 6th, so if you want to come out and show your support, by all means, feel free to do so. I've gotten a lot of reference letters. I really do appreciate how many people have stepped up in their desire to let the court know kind of what kind of person I am and what kind of platform CMR offers and how much good we actually do in the community on an ongoing basis, but for many, many years. So I appreciate the support so much. I cannot begin to tell you. All right, but that's all she wrote, good people. Support local businesses. Big shout out to Burger King, Popeyes, Miracle Brokers, and we will see you guys tomorrow morning.
Thank you for tuning in to another edition of The Cold Hard Truth. Make sure to check Facebook for showtimes and more information and the latest news at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Subscribe to our IG and Facebook pages to get the latest happenings.